entire Amish family of 7 vanished in 1992, leaving behind only a note about visiting relatives for the weekend. But they never returned. No sightings, no trail, only a horse still tied to the post, and a single oil lamp left burning by the kitchen sink. For 10 years, the farm stood untouched, until the day the community gathered to remember the missing, and someone opened a drawer they hadn't noticed before. Inside, a faded photograph, a black and white image of the farmhouse, taken from outside. In the upstairs window, a hand, small, pressed against the glass. And in the corner of the photo, a date stamp, October 16th, 1992. 3 days after the family disappeared. The King family vanished. Ephraim and Miriam King were respected members of the Old Order Amish community near Bird in Hand, Pennsylvania. Quiet, private, faithful. They had 5 children, 2 sons, Samuel and Levi, and 3 daughters, Ruth, Naomi, and the youngest, Clara, only 4 years old. On the morning of October 13th, 1992, a neighbor noticed the family's buggy still parked beside the barn. It was odd. They had left a note pinned to the front door that simply read, "Gone to see Miriam's kin in intercourse. Back Monday. Ephraim." But when Monday came, they didn't return. By Thursday, a neighbor went in to check. He found every dish still in place. Freshly baked bread wrapped in a towel. Table set for breakfast. But no people. No sign of struggle. No blood. No broken doors or shattered glass. Only the family's dog, Gideon, pacing restlessly inside the barn. And something else even stranger. No footprints. Not around the house. Not near the barn. Not along the dirt road that wound down to the nearest fence post, as if the entire family had walked off the face of the earth, without ever disturbing the ground. The note, that didn't make sense. What confused law enforcement most was the note. They claimed to be visiting Miriam's relatives in Intercourse, a small Amish town less than 8 miles away. But when police visited every relative listed under her maiden name, they all gave the same answer. We haven't seen them in weeks. No visit was ever planned. Even more troubling, the handwriting on the note. It was signed Ephraim. But Miriam's sister, Sadie, insisted that wasn't his pen. He never curled his E's. Graphology confirmed the writing was inconsistent with earlier samples. It looked practiced, copied, as if someone else had written it, pretending to be Ephraim. The mirror upstairs, in the attic of the King farmhouse, a place the Amish traditionally avoid, the sheriff's deputy found an object that didn't belong. A mirror, rectangular, framed in what looked like scorched oak. Its glass cracked in the upper corner. The Amish, known for avoiding vanity, do not keep mirrors in their homes. This one had been hung facing the wall. Etched into the bottom corner was a phrase in faint, curling script. Er sieht dich noch. He still sees you. No fingerprints. No signs of who brought it there. Just the dust around it, perfectly undisturbed, as if no one had touched it in years. Lavender and string. In the youngest daughter's room, under her pillow, the police found a bundle of dried lavender tied with red string. When shown the item, Sadie turned pale. That's not for sleeping. That's for warding. She wouldn't say anything more. But the local bishop later told the sheriff, old families, some of them believe in shadows, that they can take your place if you invite them. Lavender is a warning. No witnesses. No exit. Not a single person saw the King family leave. No buggies on the road. No wagons reported missing. And yet, all 7 were gone. Their clothes remained. Their tools untouched. Just a house. Pause in time. The first funeral with no graves. In 1993, the local Amish held a closed funeral. No bodies. No caskets. Only candles. And a reading of Psalm 139. If I ascend into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. When it ended, Sadie placed a single item at the center of the empty pew. A wooden toy carved in the shape of a horse. It had belonged to Levi. His initials burned into the underside. She whispered something before she walked away. The only word anyone heard, switch. The house is left to rot. Over the next 10 years, the house was untouched. No one lived there. The Amish refused to repurpose the land. Not out of grief. Out of fear. Children were told not to walk too close to the King property. Neighbors stopped using the road that ran past the barn. Some nights, travelers claimed to see a flicker of candlelight in the topmost window, even though the home had no power, and no one was ever seen inside. One traveler, a local Englishman who passed the road in 1999, told police, "I saw someone staring at me from the attic, like they were behind glass. But when I looked again, the house was empty." 10 years later, a memorial. In October 2002, on the 10-year anniversary of the King family's disappearance, the Amish held a remembrance gathering. For the first time in a decade, they reopened the home. 20 people entered. Among them, a boy named Micah, 14 years old, whose family had once shared farmland with the Kings. While the adults sang hymns, Micah wandered. He opened drawers, looked at books, and then found it, a shallow drawer under the main stairs. Inside, a black and white photo, curled at the corners. It showed the King farmhouse. From outside, from the front yard, and in the upper right window, the bedroom shared by Naomi and Ruth. A hand, small, pale, fingers pressed to the glass. And in the corner, a timestamp. October 16th, 1992. 3 days after they disappeared. The photograph should not have existed. The house had been sealed since the day the family vanished. No one had stepped inside. No one had opened that drawer. But now it lay on the church table. A faded print, time-stamped October 16th, 1992, 3 days after King family claimed to have left, and 2 days after they were officially declared missing. In the upper window, a child hand, pressed gently against the glass. No face, just that small, impossible presence. A signal, a cry, or something worse. The elders dismissed it as a forgery, a trick of light, an old photo someone placed as a cruel joke. But one woman in the room knew better. She had heard that window creak open once, late at night, when no one was supposed to be awake. Sadie's confession. That woman was Sadie Lapp, Miriam King's younger sister. After the service, she pulled Micah aside. Her hands trembled as she held the photograph. She whispered, "Naomi used to watch the woods from that window." And then, quietly, she said something in the trees was copying her. Micah asked what she meant. Sadie paused, then handed him an envelope. Inside was a single page, handwritten in faint pencil. A journal entry. Naomi's. The journal page, October 5th, 1992. Mama said I must stop singing at night. But I can't help it. The sound helps me not be afraid. Last night I saw it again. Out by the tree line. It waved at me. I waved back, but my hand didn't move. Then I heard my voice say something, but my mouth was shut. Papa says I dreamed too much. But Ruth heard it too. She said it was smiling. The mirror appears again. The attic mirror, the one the sheriff had cataloged and then lost, returned. On the night of the memorial, Deputy Lynn, long retired, found it resting on his front porch. No note, no footprints, just a mirror leaning against a screen door. This time, the glass had changed. It was darker, murky, like the surface of a pond just before rain. When he looked into it, He didn't see his own face. He saw 7 figures, standing in a field, backs turned, facing a small door built into the side of a hill. He covered the mirror with a sheet and placed it in his barn. 3 days later, he left town. No forwarding address. Micah's obsession. Micah was only 14, but something about the photograph refused to leave his mind. He copied it, drew it again and again, sketching the window, the hand, the angle of light, and every time he added something new. A faint figure in the tree line, a second hand behind the first. He didn't know why. He just felt it, as if memory were being handed to him from someone else. He began sneaking onto the old King property, exploring the barn, prying floorboards in the root cellar, searching for whatever the hand had been reaching toward. One night, under a loose stone in the foundation, he found a tin box. Inside, a child's wooden comb, a hand-drawn map of the farm, and a cassette tape wrapped in wax paper. On the tape, written in blue ink, Naomi, October 11th. The voice on the tape. Micah didn't have a cassette player, so he brought it to his uncle, who worked at a repair shop in town. They played it together, seated around a wooden bench. At first static, then faint breathing. A child humming a melody. Soft, sad, and then words. The mirror in the attic is different today. I think it knows my name. It doesn't show what's in front of it. It shows something behind me. I asked Mama to cover it, but she said it isn't there. She never looks at it. Papa said to burn it, but then he started humming too. I don't think he hears himself anymore. A click, then silence. The tape ended at 2 minutes and 17 seconds. The same time the clocks in the King house had all stopped. The night they vanished. The song returns. After the memorial, Sadie began to hear singing outside her house at night. Always the same melody. Soft, repetitive. The tune Naomi used to hum to her dolls. It came from the cornfield. One night, Sadie lit a lantern and walked toward it. She followed the sound down the path, past the old fence, to the edge of the King property. And there, tied to the fence post, was a single braid of hair, blonde, twisted tight with red thread. Sadie wept. She never went back. The bishop's visit. The new bishop, concerned about rising fear among the youth, visited the house himself. He brought 2 elders, a camera, and a recording device. He entered just after sunrise. Everything was still. Same table, same shoes, same scent of dried herbs in the air. But in the children's room, he noticed something new. The quilt on Naomi's bed, once folded neatly, was now pulled back, pillow dented, lavender gone, and on the floor, a perfect circle of soot. Within the circle, a single button. It matched the dress Naomi wore in the last family photo. The bishop didn't speak. He took a photograph. Then they left. The next day, he resigned. A second voice on the tape. Micah returned to the repair shop. He asked if they could clean the cassette, check for hidden tracks. They found something. A second voice under Naomi's. Slower, lower, repeating the same words she spoke, but delayed by 1 second, as if echoing her thoughts, mocking her, or learning from her. The technician ran the tape backward. At the end, in reverse, a final whisper. Only one can return. Sadie's final visit. Weeks later, Sadie called Micah to her home. She handed him a journal, her sister Miriam's. It had been hidden under the floorboards of the sewing room, found by accident when a board cracked under Sadie's foot. The last entry was dated October 12, 1992. Naomi woke screaming again. She says she saw herself outside the window. Ruth, too. She said there's a second Naomi, one who doesn't blink. Ephraim finally spoke to the bishop. He believed something came through the mirror. something we invited, by accident, or by fear. He says we leave tomorrow morning. I pray it's not already too late. A new drawing appears. On the church bulletin board, someone pinned a new sketch. No one saw who left it. It showed the King farmhouse from above, but drawn around it, in tight, spiraling ink, were tiny stick figures, marching in a circle, each holding hands. And in the attic window, a new hand pressed against the glass. But this time, the fingers were on the outside. They say the eyes are mirrors of the soul. But what if your reflection moves when you do not? In the days after the memorial, whispers grew louder, not about the photo, or the tape, or the hair braid, but about something else. A boy named Micah, 14, vanished from his bedroom one night. He walked onto the King property at 2:17 a.m., the time the clock stopped in 1992. He didn't know what he was chasing. He just knew it was there, the disappearance. Micah's mother found his room empty. Window open to the night. His sketch pad still on the desk. Downstairs, a cassette player hummed. Flat, silent, in the box by the front door, his homework folder, lay the photograph again. Only this time on the back was a small message in pencil. It's my turn now. The flashlight battery Micah kept in his desk missing. So was he. Panic in the community. The local Amish sprang into caution. Men formed search teams. Women prayed in hushed tones. Children stayed inside. The sheriff was called again. They combed the farmstead, the woods, the field. Micah's sandals were found at the property line just past the barn, dusty, worn, facing the field, but no tracks beyond it, not a single one. Micah's return. 3 days later, just before dawn, Micah walked home. Dirty, barefoot, eyes wide with something unusual. He said only one thing. It followed me. He wouldn't explain more. His voice trembled when he looked at his reflection. My shadow didn't leave with me. What shadow? Micah told them he saw a figure in the field, a boy like him, same clothes, same hair, but when he moved, the figure waited, let him walk past, then followed. It copied me, but it watched me sleep that night. He hesitated. It smiled. The cassette revealed. Micah gave the tape from part 2 to the sheriff. It went to a specialist. They enhanced the second voice, the echo. 2 phrases were isolated. Only one can return. It's my turn now. Those were written on the tape box. 2. They matched. Sadie's vision. Sadie began sleepwalking. 2 nights ago, her son found her kneeling in the yard. She pointed at a tree line, whispered, "It's there again," in the amber glow. Later, she recalled dreaming, a child singing, a door opening in a barn wall, and a mirror propped beside it. And that figure, he climbed inside. She woke outside under the sorghum stalks, clasping a piece of charcoal in her hand. It smelled of burnt wood and lavender. Visions in the mirror. Deputy Lynn visited Micah with a borrowed mirror. He asked the boy to look. Micah stared at his reflection, then gasped. He turned the mirror slowly, revealing the shadow child singing behind him, but only for a moment. By the time the deputy grabbed the mirror, Micah leaned away. I saw me laughing. A hidden notebook. During the search for Micah, one volunteer found a rusted tin can in the barn. Inside, a small notebook, torn prayer cloth, a faded snapshot of Naomi and another Naomi. The notebook, still warm by body heat, was Miriam's. Inside, she had sketched the mirror. One sketch showed the mirror hung on diagonal hinges, like a trapdoor, and beneath it, sometimes a reflection stays when we go. A searing scent. The barn volunteer, a teenage girl named Ruth Lap, fainted while handling the notebook. She described the smell, like lavender, and burnt silk, and regret. The barn smelled the same afterward. Deputy Lynn had to abandon the building for a day. It was cold inside. He said it felt like the walls were breathing. Research pops up. Micah's phone, that he uses for school, recorded a notification at 2:17 a.m. Not from anyone he knew. A file dropped, opened itself, named Mirror. It was a photo from 2002 of the barn's large oak, and something new, a triangular split in the bark, with shards of broken mirror embedded inside, sharp edges catching moonlight. But that scene wasn't recorded before, and Micah had no memory of taking it. The night visit. That night, Micah refused to sleep. He stayed up in the pantry, where the first photo was found. He said his phone lit up at 2:17. He heard someone whisper. It was the mirror's voice. "It's my turn." He looked up, saw a face outside the window. A boy, same age, watching. Then the window fogged. He ran away. Crawling in the attic, Deputy Lynn and a crew ventured into the attic. Why did they go there again? They found strange alterations. The mirror was gone. In its place, nails driven through boards. Shards of glass melted into wood. A message burned. In plain English. Switch completed. A choice or a cycle. Micah and Sadie sat together in the early morning blue. He clutched the notebook. She rocked back and forth. He said, "It told me. Only one of us can stay." He looked Sadie in the eyes. "It wants a switch." Sadie stared at the horizon. "I think we started one and didn't finish." Cliffhanger ending. In the barn that evening, an owl hooted in the loft. Ruth Lapp, the volunteer, felt eyes watching her in the dark. She whispered. Something walked past me inside the wall. Camera footage from the volunteer's phone, recovered later, showed only her, but the audio captured something else. What sounded like footsteps, walking toward the mirror's direction. But nothing was there, only hallowed silence. Silence can be louder than any scream. And in the King barn, the silence wasn't empty. It was listening. Switch completed. Still burned into the wood. The community was on edge. Faith shaken. But answers began to stir in places they never thought to look. The town meeting. Word of Micah's disappearance and return spread fast. The school board convened. Elders gathered. Plain-clothed police stood at the edge. Inside the church hall, voices were hushed, urgent. Bishop Fisher cleared his throat. "We came here to find peace, but peace found us first." He looked at Sadie and Micah from the front row. "We will search every corner and every story until we either find them or they stop finding us." The search of the King farm. A volunteer team entered the barn once more, this time with lights, cameras, and engineers. Among them was an Amish locksmith, Amos Stoltz, distant kin to Jonas, who first discovered the empty farm. He carried a simple tool, a crook-shaped pick. The wooden floor creaked underfoot. They worked through the night. The discovery. At 2:17 a.m., Amos paused. He traced his fingers along the wiring to an old lamp. Something felt wrong. He tapped a board near the loft stairs. It sounded hollow. He pried a loose plank. Behind it, a door. Small, wooden, framed in black soot. No handle, no lock, just a slit of darkness. Peering inside, a beam from a flashlight revealed shallow steps, narrow and cold. They descended 3 feet into shadow. At the bottom, a dirt floor. Not hay, not stone, just earth. And in the center, a circle etched in ash, extending outward. 7 lines, one for each family member. On the lines, chalk footprints. But they didn't go out. They circled back to the center. Amos swallowed. "It's a map," he whispered. "A circle without an exit. The secret journal." Inside the hidden room, a metal tin lay beside the footprints. Inside it, a journal. Handwritten. Miriam King's. Entries from October 1992. Miriam's final words, October 15th. "We tried it last night. The singing. Josiah said it was wrong. But Naomi, she heard something. We gathered in this place. Said the words. Carved the paths. It didn't come for us. We stepped toward it. I saw the reflection of the barn in the mirror door. But behind it, I saw us. It moved when we moved, and we had no choice." The footprint line. Deputy Lynn examined the chalk lines. He said, "There are sizes, but exact, even the curve of the heel." It looked like 7 people had circled, but no one had stepped off the board. No footprints beyond the chalk, as if they walked in place, but never truly left. Signs in the wood. 2 plank boards had been carved with symbols. Naomi's bed, the barn door, and now this. Symbols matching those found in the mirror shards embedded in the tree roots. And in every case, a spiral, 12 coils. The spiral theory grows. Amos frowned at the grain of the wood. "Spirals aren't just symbols," he said. "They're invitations." He admitted he'd heard folklore. Spirits that said, "Walk without leaving. Circle without exiting." They took the journal out, laid it on the table, and the last entry was dated the night they vanished. October 16th. "It knows us now." We sang. We stepped in rhythm, just enough to open the door. We thought it would choose one. A sacrifice, but it chose all. I don't know if we return, or if we become the return. A broken recorder. Beside the journal lay a cassette recorder, an old tape inside. Label, family song. They played it on sight. It crackled. A lullaby emerged. Naomi's voice faint, singing, but as it played, voices undercut it. Whispers, echoes. Naomi's voice overlapped by itself. One line, "We are not alone." Then static. Micah watches. Micah, standing at the threshold of that dirt room, trembled. He turned, asked his mother, "Were we left or taken?" She placed her hand on his shoulder. We opened the door. He looked at her. "Then can we close it?" The bishop's prayer. At dawn, Bishop Fisher prayed over the entrance. Words in Dutch. Slow, intentional. He asked forgiveness. Of God, of spirits, of memory. When he finished, he placed the mirror shards inside the journal's tin, then sealed the door, locked it, 3 bolts. He said, "Let it sleep." A tremor in the night. That evening, the community slept with doors locked tight. Around midnight, the ground trembled. A hum, low and unmoving. The mirror shards vibrated in the locked tin. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the hum stopped, and the mirror shards glowed faintly. A new drawing appears. In the morning, someone found chalk spirals drawn around the barn. Outside, covering facade, 7 spirals arranged like raindrops, each one different. One spiral was perfectly still. The cliffhanger. Deputy Lynn walked toward the barn. He stopped at the door. He could feel warmth from beneath the door, and a faint melody, someone singing, not Naomi's. Deeper, older, he rested his hand on the wood. Something shifted. A single note, drawn in the ash, 9. 9, not 7. The number of people inside didn't match the family. A barn is meant to shelter life. But beneath this one, something waited. Something not born of earth or sin. Something else. It pulsed in the dark. And on the other side, it whispered. breaking the door. At dawn, Bishop Fisher and Deputy Lynn returned. They pushed on the planks. They wouldn't budge. The warmth beneath grew. Micah, trembling, touched one plank. It rang like a bell. All at once, the door splintered open. Dust, ash, darkness. Inside the circle room, they entered slowly. The dirt floor was covered in footprints made of chalk, too many to count. The tin with mirror shards lay at the center, cracked open, shards scattered like broken teeth. Miriam's journal lay on top of them, open to the last unwritten page. And standing by the wall, a boy, ragged clothes, eyes too old, nose bleeding. She said to come. He rasped. It took them a moment to realize he was not Micah, the stranger boy. They called him Jonas, after the volunteer who fainted, a boy no one recognized. He claimed he had lived in the darkness for years. They sing me to sleep. I wake in dreams. I came because the number changed. Number in the dirt. They looked down. The chalk footprints formed a pattern around the tin. They counted again. 9, but there were 10 distinct shoe prints. 9 belonged to the family, 1 to another. The circle had grown. The hymn begins. Then Jonas began to sing. Slowly, a hymn, not from any Amish hymnal. It was old, worn, taught in whispers. The words made no sense. A mournful melody. Micah began to tremble. Each note seemed to echo off the walls. What they heard, whispers filled the room. Return. Remember, she waits. The words repeated in Jonas's voice, backed by a chorus of another voice, unseen. Micah covered his ears. Sadie knelt, weeping. The revelation. Jonas stopped. He looked at Micah. The circle was wrong. We left the door open. Now there are more of us. He paused. Naomi, she isn't gone. She's the song. Echoes in the journal. Deputy Lynn picked up Miriam's journal once more. He found a new scribble in the margin. The song stays, but the singer changes. Below it, a number written in red ink. 10. The boy's confession. Jonas turned to Sadie. I was outside. They forgot me. They didn't look up. He closed his eyes. I heard the hymn. It pulled me under. It pulled them together. He fractured. He staggered. Collapse, the forbidden hymn. They played it back. The tune Micah recognized. It was Naomi's hum, twisted. Underneath, a bass voice not human. It rumbled in verse. A lyric repeated softly. He sees you through the spiral. When the mirror sleeps. Micah's revelation. Micah whispered. It's the song Mima sang, the one she composed. No one moved. Micah began to cry. She wrote it for Naomi, for safety. But the words changed. He looked at Sadie. It taught them to join. The spiral reborn. Jonas awoke. Eyes clear, he stood, clutching the tin. Take this and burn it. They watched him walk to the ash circle. He placed the shards and journal inside the tin. He set it down and pressed his palm on the roof of the tin. A hum began. Deep, old. This is not the end, he said. He walked out. What was left? They counted again. 10 people had been in the circle. 9 bodies. 1 missing. The air shimmered. They carried the tin from the barn, the shards, the journal, into the open field. Under an Oxford sky, bleeding into twilight. The community gathered once more. Amish women with kerchiefs. Children holding lanterns. Plain-clothed deputies watching from behind wagons. All eyes fixed on Rachel King, Miriam's sister, aged but unbroken, holding the items. Micah stood beside her, candle clasped tightly. Deputy Lynn hovered near the tin, fear etched in his face. No one spoke. No one whispered. They only listened. The signal. At 7:11 p.m., the cicadas hushed. An unseen stillness descended, and then a hum, low, like distant thunder through the earth. The limp of the barn door incident, a ghost in the wires, had followed them. Now it rose around them. One by one, the tin's contents vibrated, rattled, in ways they were not designed to. A shard cracked. The journal's spine snapped. The tin lid began to ring. Micah stumbled back. "It's starting again," he whispered. Old hymns, new voices. Then the singing began. It rose from the trees at the edge of the field. Faint at first, but growing. A layered hymn. Naomi's voice at its core, clear, childlike, surrounded by other voices, deeper, older, hands clasped around lanterns. People felt their own voices rise and echo, but between the lines, something more. The bass undertone, the forbidden layer, the spirit within the song. Amos drops to his knees. Amos Stoltz, the locksmith, fell to the ground. Shaking, he watched the tin. The shard spun. He cried out, "Stop it. The circle isn't closed. We never finished." The revelation. From the back, a voice carried, "The 10th is home." Micah drew near. "What's unfinished?" he asked quietly. "The door," the voice answered. The singer stays. The song instructs. Someone must step inside. Rachel steps forward. She did not volunteer. She simply walked. She placed her lantern beside the tin. Her hands shook as she opened the journal's pages. She whispered. Naomi's song was intended to guide us, but the ending was lost. She read aloud, from a final page revealed only by candlelight. We sang her home, but the silence came after. We left her at the door. Her voice cracked. "I will walk in. I must." The descent. Bishop Fisher lit a lantern at the hidden door outside the barn. He handed it to Rachel as she knelt and pressed the tin's lid again. The shards glowed. Amid the humming night, she slipped toward the barn, through the pitch-black doorway. They heard her footsteps descending. Seconds passed. Minutes. The humming rose. Then silence. Lightning flashed in the distance. A woman in the darkness. Rachel's voice from within called. "It's empty. Only ash and dirt. But I see her." A child's laughter echoed. Night blankets her. She stands by the door, waiting. Micah trembles. He took a step forward. "What does she want?" Silence. Then Rachel's voice again. She is where the spiral ends and begins. Another peal of thunder. The choir stops. The singing halted instantly. The shard stilled. The tin's lid snapped shut on its own. Rachel did not emerge. A cracking sound. Then footsteps, slower, dragging. And a sliver of lantern light showed her. Eyes vacant. Hands empty. No journal. No shards. Just a carriage of accomplishment or submission. She whispers one word. Zwaits. Echoing across the field. "Thou shalt not return without release." The first disappearance. Jonas, the boy from Part 5, was gone. No footprints. No trail. Just a note pinned to the barn. It read, "Only one returns freely." Rachel stands alone. She emerged, bathed in lantern glow. Silent, unblinking. The crowd parted for her. Micah stepped forward. "Mima, are you—" He whispered. No answer. She turned and her face showed a shadow. Something twisted. Then she spoke. She sings still, but only when she's heard. She placed a tin in Micah's hands. "Finish it." She stumbled away. Micah reads a journal. The final page, now revealed, contained music notes. 7 bars. The final bar empty. Above it, a single lyric. released the spiral's daughter. Micah's choice. He carried the tin to the barn door. The hymn humming began again. As he reached for the ledger in the journal, rain began. The hum slowed to match his steps. He unfolded the last page. Then the light failed. A voice whispered from inside the tin. I am here. They say a spiral has no end, but it has a heart, something alive in its center, something calling, the calm before the refrain. The next night, the community gathered again. No priest, no deputy, just a circle of lanterns around the barn. Micah stood alone, holding the journal's last page and the tin of shards. The rain had turned the field to mud. Their breath made mist. No one spoke, only the distant hum, pulsing beneath the earth. Micah stepped forward. He walked toward the hidden door, now reinforced with planks. The tin in his left hand, the journal sheet in the right, heart pounding. He stopped. He looked up at the barn. A whisper from within. From inside, a voice. I'm here. Low, soft. Micah sank to his knees. He whispered, Naomi? Yes, it answered. The door opened slowly. Without a sound, the planks fell aside. Darkness spilled out. Micah stepped in. The spiral chamber revealed. Inside, the circle was gone. Salt in neat lines formed a spiral on the dirt floor. At the center, a girl, standing barefoot, blue dress, pale, eyes closed. She speaks without sound. Micah felt words in his mind. Thank you. He said nothing. She opened her eyes. Name and echo. I am Naomi and I am's waits. He gasped. The spiral's lesson. She walked the spiral path. Each coil resonated. She reached the center. I am the echo left behind. The song needed a witness. Micah's song. He knelt beside her, laid the journal on the ground. He began to sing. A soft hymn. Her melody. The forbidden hymn, unfinished. The chamber reacts. The salt lines pulsed. Shards rattled. A wind without breath. Micah's voice trembled. One note remains. He sang until the final bar. Until silence. Naomi collapses. She fell to her knees. Odor of lavender and ash. Remember me. The spiral recedes. Salt faded. Darkness pulled back. Naomi looked at Micah. It's done. They emerge. Micah helped her out. She was silent. Light returned to her eyes. The community praises. Lanterns flickered. They embraced her. No tears, only stunned relief. Micah reads a journal. Beside the barn, he read. The spiral ends for her. But the woods watch. From the trees, someone watched. Silent. The spiral ended, but the ripple did not. The night Naomi returned, they believed the story was over. They were wrong. Dawn of the return. She walked from the barn at sunrise, clothing damp, hair tangled, eyes wild with memory. Micah led her to the farmstead. No crowd gathered. They only watched and listened. The return of Naomi. She paused at the house's threshold, touched the doorframe, sighing. Home, she whispered. Miriam's quilt, still folded on a chair, caught her gaze. She opened her hand. A button, her button, from the dress in the final photo. Community breast pause. The Amish stared. Deputy Lynn stepped forward. Naomi? She nodded, then stepped inside. Inside the quiet home. They followed her in. Everything remained the same. Dust-coated. Time stopped. She walked each room slowly, as if walking back through memories. In the living area, the mirror was gone. In its place, ashen stood on the floor, burned into the boards. His waits complete. A child's lullaby. Naomi stood still. A lullaby emerged, soft, unaccompanied. Her voice trembled. "Sleep now, mother." Sadie stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Naomi?" The girl turned. "I remember." The whisper council. The elders gathered. They halted her, her meaning unclear, but a word echoed. "It's the spiral." Nightmares begin. That evening, Sadie woke screaming. Images of the spiral, twisted and black. Voice whispers, "We are not done." The box of letters. Deputy Lynn retrieved a lockbox from his office. Inside, letters from Miriam written after the disappearance. One struck him dumb. "If Naomi leaves again, follow her. She carries a key." Naomi's confession. Micah sat beside her in the barn. "What happened to us?" She stared at the journal's cover. It was a choice. We saved ourselves. But the spiral asks more. The whisper in the field. A farmer reported seeing Naomi singing in the field at midnight, alone. She stood at the old farmhouse window, hand pressed against the glass. The disturbing photo. A new photo appeared at church the next morning, taken from outside the house, in the upstairs window. Not Naomi, but a shadow, fingers pressed against glass. A face that wasn't hers. The community wavers. Some whispered exile. Others believed redemption. Micah stood silent. The spiral was her guide. But it was still spinning. Deputy Lynn's doubt. He took Naomi aside. "Are you safe?" She chalked the ground. In tiny letters around the barn's threshold. "Zwait's rise." He recoiled. The final night. Lanterns placed outside each home. Families watched from porches. Naomi walked the line, stopping before each door, singing softly. Sadie's decision. She stepped out. "Naomi." They stood under the moon. Naomi turned. "I'm not the one you remember." Her eyes flickered. "I'm the echo." Cliffhanger. Sadie reached for her. "Then help me find her." Naomi smiled and opened her arms. The night held its breath. They say every story deserves an ending, but some stories don't end, they unfold. They linger in breath, in wood, in water. The King family story is one of those. The dawn after darkness. At sunrise, the fields glowed gold. The spiral etched into the barn steps remained faint. Naomi stood at the gate. Micah beside her. Sadie watched from the porch. No one else dared to come near. The council gathers. Bishop Fisher, pale, arrived with 2 elders. Deputy Lynn joined, head bowed. They formed a circle around Naomi and Micah. A hush fell. Naomi speaks. "I am her echo, the one left behind. I carried her song." She took out the button she showed earlier. This belonged to her, remnant of a life we shared. Micah intercedes. He stepped forward. The spiral brought her back, but not alone. He swept his arm to reveal darkened window panes. She came with memories and something else. He didn't finish. A sudden gust. A wind swept through. Doors closed. Lanterns flickered. The spiral in the barn steps glowed faint again. Sadie's tears. She knelt in front of Naomi. "Tell me, is she still in there with you?" Naomi turned. "I see her, and sometimes I feel her voice. But the spiral needs a witness to stay. The ritual of release." Bishop Fisher retrieved a wooden bowl filled with salt, lavender, and mirror shards from the tin. He handed it to Sadie. To free her, we must release the spiral. Together, they walked to the barn door. The hymn begins. Naomi began a soft hum. Micah joined. A simple melody. It carried Naomi's voice, Sadie's tears, Micah's hope. They stepped onto the barn steps. An offering. Sadie sprinkled the bowl's contents on the steps. Salt spiraled outward. Lavender smoke curled. Mirror shards shimmered. Naomi's goodbye. She turned and placed her hand on Sadie's cheek. "We will meet again," she whispered. The song ended. The spiral fades. Salt dissolved into the wood. Lavender dispersed. Mirror shards darkened. Naomi vanishes. She walked backward up the steps. Then, silence. No footsteps. No voice. No wind. Only emptiness. Micah collapses. He kneeled, weeping. Sadie embraced him. Bishop Fisher stood. Deputy Lynn watched. Pain, relief, and wonder hung in the air. Final reflection. They thought they vanished, but they stayed. In echoes and memory in the spaces between. Epilogue. Weeks later, the barn door was resealed. Spiral steps repaired. No trace remained. The farmhouse reopened. Naomi's button placed beside Ruth's wooden horse in a small shrine. A whisper heard. One night, Micah heard the lullaby again. Soft, distant, from inside the barn. He whispered, "Sleep now, mother." A new generation. Children would walk past the King farm. They would pause by the barn. They would think they heard singing. Some doors stay open, but only for those who remember to walk through them. The King family lives on in melody, in mirror, in love. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. Tell me where in the world you're watching and what time the truth found you.